What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Flyvox Talk Cities, the podcast based around our beloved city building simulation, City Skylines. My name is Flyvox, but I am not here alone. With me today is the one and only Czardus. Hello, Czardus. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, 100%. Please tell us a few words about yourself.
Well, I am Czardus, and if you don't know who I am, I primarily have done City Skylines on YouTube, but I have also done a lot of other games like Surviving Mars and Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster a little bit, and Vanished a long time ago. And lately, I've gotten into a bit of Manor Lords and RimWorld, really, especially too. But yeah.
Nice. That is some good variety right there. So, about City Skylines, Czardus, when did you first hear about the game, and was there anything or anyone that inspired you to start playing it?
Yeah, so way back when the game came out, I think it was 2015, I didn't play it at launch. And then there was one day I had never heard of it, but I had a friend who I knew since I was a kid, and he knew that I liked city builders and stuff like that. And he was like, "Hey, have you ever played City Skylines?" And I'm like, "No, what's that?" And so then I checked it out and I was hooked. I think I played it for a while. It wasn't long after launch, but I played it for a while without any mods, and then I did take a break for a while. And then I went back and I was like, oh, look, there's mods that I can do too now. And so then I started doing a little bit with mods of the basic stuff like Move It and things like that. And then it just grew from there. And just fell in love with City Skylines.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have had something similar actually. A coworker of mine recommended the game to me. He's like, "Oh, there's this cool new in air quotes. That was like I think 2017, 2018 when it had just released for console." And
Mm-hmm.
since I was always a console player, he was playing he's playing on Xbox. I was on PlayStation usually, and he had found City Skylines just on YouTube, I think, on YouTube video, and he was telling me about it. And I was like, I don't really like simulation games, so yeah, I don't know. And he just kept pushing me. He's like, yo, you have to check it out. You just watch one video and you'll like it. And I'm like, oh, fine, it's just like to sort of get him off my back. I was like, okay, I'll check out a video, and yeah, instantly hooked. I don't know what it is, but like again, I don't really, I'm not the simulation game type, but City Skylines just, I don't know. I was just instantly hooked, and that was like, I think the console release was 2017, so that must have been like early 2018, I think, and that's when I started
Yeah.
playing on console. Yeah, I got a used copy and just played on console. Was super pumped when they had support for keyboard and mouse on PlayStation because that wasn't a given. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I think like a year or something, I played with the controller, and it was an experience in itself, right? But yeah, when I finally had the option to play with keyboard and mouse, like I couldn't go back. Really, it was a completely different ball game, sort of, and that was really amazing until I switched to computer to playing on PC, which was I think in like 2020. So I played on console for like 2 years, which was really really cool.
Yeah, I had forgotten that you started on console.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I remember now that when it switched over to PC and we finally got you to do it on PC, or when you switched over to PC, it I think it was a pretty like eye-opening type thing of all the things you could do with it, right?
100%. I was mind blown. I was like first time I tested out mods. Well, I mean, the good thing was that I had like 2 years of vanilla gameplay experience, so I was able to learn the base game, learn well, not the base game, but learn the vanilla game in City Skylines and familiarize myself with all the mechanics and get a good grasp of it before switching over to PC and eventually mods. And I remembered like the first live stream that I did with mods, and I was like, okay, we're gonna test this. And Chad, you have to help me because I know nothing. And I was, as you said, like the basic like move it. I was so mind blown by what you can do with move it. Just like grab a bunch of trees and copy them and paste them somewhere else. I was like, oh my God, you can do that now? That is so epic.
Yeah, it made trees so much like that in particular, trees. And like there's so many things you can do with Move It alone that you don't even need other mods sometimes. I think I did an entire series once where it was like the only mod I had was Move It, and it made a huge difference.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's really an amazing mod. So
Yeah.
did you start out playing with mod? No, you said you played and then you came back and found the mod. So what was your very first playing experience like?
Well, I did what everybody does, and I had a terrible looking city with the highways everywhere and, terrible icons and traffic, and it it wasn't great. But then I built a city that I was proud of at the time, where I had all these different districts named after American presidents, and it had like all these different areas. But
Oh, that's
then
cool.
a year or two ago, I opened it back up and I looked at it and I thought it was awful. But when we're building it the first time around, we always think that it's great, right? And I think you're a mod on my Discord server, and we've seen people post pictures where you can tell just from a look at it that they're a newbie playing it, but it's also they're proud of it, and they should be because it's their creation, and they're in the process of learning the game and learning how everything works, and it's just great.
Agreed. And that's what I also love about the game. The learning curve that it has, or that it had for me from the beginning. Like, and yeah, I do agree. All of our cities, I think all of our first attempts at cities were not great. Like for me, my very, very first playing experience, even though I watched a lot of tutorial videos because I just loved watching City Skylines content, I just went bankrupt, like right off the bat. I don't think I even got started because I just did too much road
Mhm.
layout and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, no more money. Fine. That's try to get started again. And yeah, just getting familiarized with all the mechanics. Yeah, looking back now or thinking back to it now, because I guess I should try to turn on ye old PlayStation once again and go find those old saves because I'm pretty sure they're still on there. I should actually
Oh,
do
yeah.
that. Yeah.
That would be interesting to see too, to go back and see some of your early cities.
Yeah.
I think there's only one save that I still have from 2015, and that was the one I was talking about with the different uh, American presidents in the districts. But it is fun to go back and look at the old stuff.
Yes, like I assume, especially with like looking at it with the knowledge that we have now,
Hmm.
and yeah, just thinking like, oh, what did I think here? Why did I do this? How come I never did this? It's
Yeah.
because I feel like you really fast. I forget how it was.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing too is that with the different DLCs, like there are things in early cities that like before Park Life, we didn't have custom parts, or
Right.
even before that, I think what which one was it? There was one Green Cities. The Green
Hmm.
Cities DLC came out in like October of 17. And I remember this because I did a video that on the road editor, and that came out where like was added to the game when they did the Green Cities DLC. And now I'm sure somebody's looking it up and saying, no, that's not right. That's not the right DLC. It was something else, but whatever. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it was the Green Cities one. And that one was also pretty big because it added a lot of new assets to the game because you could then have all of the different green cities buildings, and that started to add a lot more variety, whereas before that you had After Dark, which just added a little bit of commercial buildings, and Mass Transit, which just added some new roads. And I mean Mass Transit is a key DLC for City Skylines, don't get me wrong, but Green Cities added a huge array of new buildings. And I feel like that was when you really started to see more variation in the vanilla cities.
Yeah, I loved like Green Cities, Snowfall DLC, of course, and when I had the game on PlayStation, I got all DLCs. I mean, I when I bought the game, I'm not sure, but I think I had the DLCs that came out up to that point. That I think they were already like on the game, or I don't
Yeah,
remember
they
how that was.
they probably had like a deluxe version that you bought that had like whatever
Yeah,
DLCs were already out.
yeah, right, potentially that. But I just remember that as soon as some new content came out for cities, I was like, I have to have it. That's how
Mhm.
much I fell in love with the game, and I bought everything for PlayStation that they had to offer. Which for console players, especially since console players can only go vanilla, of course, no
Yeah.
mods, and there was even a distinction between Xbox and PlayStation. I remember because my friend from work, he had cities on Xbox then, and he had a little icon in the menu with I think it even said mods, but it was some assets that you could download or that you could get and plop in the game. Like I remember there was like a hamster statue or something like that. It was
Huh.
like, oh, and I was like, well, mods, because he was like, yeah, I got mods. I'm like, wait, you're on Xbox. How can you have mods? That's a PC thing, right? And I was like, and then I was like, okay, you got to show me. I went over to his house one day and we were looking. I was like, it does say mods. And then we checked the menu. I'm like, oh, these are assets that you can plop in the city. They're not actual like code mods, right? They don't have Move It or like Anarchy or stuff in there. And so that was interesting to see. But yeah, especially for console players, the DLC content is was so important, especially the DLCs that had to offer a lot of variety for the game, just to make your cities look different and to give
Yeah,
them more
definitely.
variety, because you were not able to get some custom assets from the workshop. Like you can't just, oh, I'm going to do like a themed city build where I only download assets from like a certain region and I'm going to recreate areas from that. So yeah, all the DLC content was just major for console players. 100%, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And what is one of your most memorable moments from or with City Skylines?
I was just thinking about that, and I think the most memorable moment for me related to City Skylines was in 2019. I was invited by Paradox to go to PDXCon in Berlin, and it was an amazing experience to get to, go to another country and just be there with a whole bunch of other cities people and just talk cities the entire weekend. And it was just a great experience. And then going into like the game itself, around the same time was when I was working on my Bellyford series, which was a medieval city that I started in the year 1500, and I tried to get it to go. The original intent was to take it all the way to the modern era, but of course it didn't quite make it there. It made it to like 1760s or something like that. But it was really fun to build that city and like really dive into the history of London, which I was using for the inspiration of the city as well.
Yeah, I remember that series. That was really epic. Like I couldn't believe that was 2019. You said, yeah. So
Yeah,
I was still on console, and like I was stunned about what you can do in City Skylines. Like you did an amazing job with that series. That was so cool seeing that. Like the whole different time era. That was really really cool. I remember that. That was super epic.
yeah, yeah. That was a fun one to do. It always makes me laugh though, thinking back because there are limitations to what you can do because it's City Skylines. It's a modern city builder, and so like I created these horses that would act as the cars because I'm like I wanted it to visually be pretty accurate. And so I got horses into the game, but the one thing I learned is that in the asset builder, anything from the asset that is within a certain number of pixels or whatever of the ground, the game will automatically start doing the wheel rotation animation. And
Oh.
so as I was creating this asset, I got them in, and I'm not an asset creator. So this was all like new skills for me of trying to figure this out. And I got the horses into the game and I loaded up and I'm like, all right, I'm going to see how they work. And all of a sudden, they're just flipping end to end as they're going
No.
down the street all the time. And I'm like, well, this isn't working right. But so then I figured out what the issue was. And so instead, I raised up the asset. And so now the horses float in the city. And so I got a
Ah.
lot of comments throughout the whole series of like people noticing that the horses were floating on air. But it's just another one of those memorable moments, I guess.
Because that's just how the game or the asset editor works. Yeah,
Yeah,
it starts to spin the objects. That's interesting. I didn't know that. See, I think I mean, you probably mentioned it in your Discord. And the little side anecdote here, because you mentioned the PDX Con in Berlin. And I remember at the time when you were saying that in your Discord, and it was really cool. I was like, oh my God, Berlin. I mean, I'm in Germany, right?
yeah,
I'm on the other side of Germany though, so and I looked up prices, and I'm like, I looked up tickets, and I'm like, oh my God, they wanted like, I can't even remember, like $70 to get in or something.
yeah,
And I'm like, and then plus the train ticket, plus the ride. I think it's like a 5 hour train ride there. I'm like, oh my God, I really wanted to check everything out and meet you, but I was like, oh, dude, that's a bit
yeah,
too much. And then it was like I didn't know the event was happening, and you mentioned it, and then it was like for me it was kind of short notice, and I was like, ah, damn, I don't even know if I have time, and then it's so expensive, and it would be like a whole like drive there, get up at 5 a.m., go to the train station, be there by lunchtime, and then like hang out with you for 4 hours, but then I have to leave again because I have like a 5 hour train ride back home. It was really interesting though. I wish we could have made it happen. I just couldn't. But I remember you telling us about that and sending some snapshots. Even that was really cool too. It was cool that you got invited there. Super awesome.
yeah, yeah. For me, it was a really busy weekend too, because of course, at the time, my daughter was just a few months old. And so, like, I felt guilty going across the world and leaving my wife with our 2-year-old son and like newborn baby.
Oh, okay,
And
understandable. Yeah.
yeah, and so I tried to minimize the time that I was gone. So I left on like Thursday night and got to Europe. I got to Berlin at like, I don't know, noon. And then I had to be at the event by like 3. And then we were there until, I don't know, 10 or 11 at night on the Friday night. And then it was all day Saturday. And then Sunday, I think my flight left at like noon on the way home. And so it was just a wild weekend. Of course, then it's also 8 hours on the plane. Oh, no, it was more than that because I had a layover in Dublin. And so, yeah, I was exhausted by the time I got home. But the event itself was really interesting. And, Paradox is really a like grand strategy company. That's where they got their start in board games of grand strategies. And then they started to bring their board games to computer. And that's really what they're about. And then all of a sudden they grab the rights to cities, and it's a huge gold mine for them, essentially. And so PDXCon as an event is geared more towards their hardcore Paradox strategy players. And so at the event, there was this big open floor because it was an old like warehouse, I think, in Berlin. And on the floor, they had a whole bunch of computers set up for LAN events. And I think that's why the price was what it was because they were getting these
Oh,
people in to have a giant LAN competition weekend. And so it was like all these crazy war game strategy nerds coming together for a weekend of just all gaming.
right, right.
So, which looked like a whole bunch of fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense then why the ticket prices
Yeah.
were like they were. But oh my God, that sounds like a really, really exhausting weekend for you. Fun, but really exhausting.
Yeah. Yep.
Here I am complaining about a 5 hour train ride, and you have to go like 8 to 10 hours on a plane, have the jet lag even, and then be on the event and smile and shake hands. And oh my God.
Yep. Yep.
Also, I didn't know that Paradox was initially in board games. I mean, I know there's a City Skylines board game. I've never tried it. I've seen it, but I didn't know that story.
Yeah, my understanding is that they started as a board game company, and then I think in the 90s or even maybe the early 2000s, they took one of their board games and made it into a computer game because they probably saw that, this is another area that they need to expand into
Yeah.
because the board games probably will be for like around forever because there's a whole different experience playing a board game, but you never know. And so I think they got into it more, and now PC gaming is their big thing, and board
Yeah.
games. I think they still produce some of them. Like they partnered with somebody to do the City Skylines board game, which is fun to play. If you haven't played it yet, you should try to get a copy of it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I haven't played it. I don't have it. I should see if I can get one. Do they still sell those, or do I need to look for a used one?
I think you can still get them. I think they still produce them. I don't know. I haven't checked for a long time, and it was announced at the PDXCon I was at
Oh, cool.
because I remember immediately asking if I could get a copy of it as
Right.
soon as it came out. But I think I ended up buying one on Amazon.
I need to check that out. Yeah, maybe I should
Yeah,
get one. It does sound very interesting to say the least. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think I have an unboxing video somewhere on my channel where I
You
opened it up, but
you do.
that
Yes, you do.
that was ages ago.
It feels like it was ages ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we talked about mods for City Skylines, and which do you prefer actually, Czardus? Modded or vanilla gameplay?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. And I think I'm this way with most games where I can do rather intense detailing, like with Bellyford, I did that and a couple other times, but I really have to be in the mood for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to like really want to dig into that. Whereas when I go more vanilla on it's like a spectrum, there's vanilla on one side and modded on the other, and there's a whole spectrum in the middle. I think a lot of the time people see it as this dichotomy of modded versus vanilla,
Mm-hmm.
but I play all across there. And when I'm closer to the vanilla side, I'm more able to just build and just like go for it and kind of like zone out a little bit more. Whereas when you're going heavily on the modded side, you really have to like pay attention to what you're doing and think about, what props are available, especially as you're recording, because if you don't want to spend hours and hours and hours making the creation and then spend a whole bunch of hours cutting down your recording into a usable video, then you kind of have to like remember exactly what an asset is called or things like that in Find It to try to like move quickly through your build. And that is a challenge that sometimes I don't really want to do the like cognitive side of that.
That's very interesting. That's a good point, actually. I've never thought of it that way from the content creator's perspective, as when you create videos and that the vanilla gameplay is potentially easier to create that video in recording and editing.
Yeah, especially like my style, and we're getting a little bit into content creation here, but my style typically is to sit down, record, and then just do minor edits to that to cut it down a tiny bit or cut things that are kind of boring into a time lapse and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not the type of builder who is going to do a really detailed build and then go back and do a commentary over that. I have done videos like that, of course, but typically that's not my style. And so vanilla fits with that better.
Yeah. And that makes sense. 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's, yeah, to each their own. Like some to some that style might fit perfectly, and to others, like you say, you don't like that style, or
Yeah.
you don't like to do it. And I think it's just important to do, or to create the videos just as comfortable as it is for one. So yeah, that's a fair point actually.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I do sometimes have fun doing stuff that's more highly detailed. But yeah, I think I've said this to people in comments on videos before of like there's so many different ways to play this game, and none of them are the right way to play the game because there is no right way to play it. It's however you find the most enjoyment out of it at the time.
That is so true. I agree 100%. There's no right or wrong way to play the game.
Mhm.
That should be the slogan actually, because it's so true. It's just so true. Yeah. Is it possible for you, Zardis, to narrow down your top 5 mods of all time?
I don't know if I can get it down to five, but let's see. We've got Move It, of course, has to be up there on the list.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a big fan of the Forest Brush mod because I just feel like if you can get a mix of trees right, then you can get your build to look so realistic just by adding trees. And it's like the easy way of getting a detailed build without going through all the detailing. And Forest Brush really helps with that. Um, then, of course, intersection marking tool was a groundbreaker as well because you could suddenly create really custom intersections or even modify the look of your road just with a mod, and that has to be near the top as well. Then the anarchy mod, I think now it's all combined into one. But it used to be network anarchy and then tree anarchy and crop
Yeah.
anarchy, and
Yeah.
but now it's all into one, and so it makes it easier to fit it into a top five list, right? But
100%.
yeah, so of course then you can do a whole bunch of stuff with that, and then the fifth one, maybe network multi-tool, because there's so many different things that you can do with that in terms of like, although I think the only thing I really use that for, the biggest thing I use that for is to just get slopes right when I'm trying to do slopes, which technically you could do with Move It because I used to do it with Move It. And so maybe that one shouldn't be on the list. I don't know, it's hard. I guess then maybe
It's really
Find It,
tough.
because then
Yeah.
yeah, Find It you can get like any anything you want in the game, and without that you're really limited in what you can do. So I guess Find It has to be up there.
Find it. Yeah. That's a really good one. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that list. I really like that list. I loved intersection marking tool when I first saw it and got my hands on it, and just started, as you said, like changing roads, customizing intersections, roundabouts. You could do so much cool stuff with that mod.
Hmm.
It's really, really amazing. I also love node controller though. That's like also good
Oh
one.
yeah,
Like,
node
I
controller is a
mean,
good one.
yeah, it's pretty mean of me to just say 5, but it's supposed to be a challenge, so
Yeah.
uh, but it's a really good list. I would agree with that actually. Yeah, Find It, Move It, of course, Anarchy, really really big one. Yeah, I think yeah, that's a really good list. So, as artists, let's talk a bit about 5B1C, the multiplayer collaboration that you created. And for anyone listening or watching that is not aware of how multiplayer in City Skylines works, it's essentially a save game pass around where a bunch of builders get together and one builder starts on a map, then passes that save to the next builder, and the next builder in turn gets to continue that same build. So, Zardis, how did you think of this project, and did it turn out the way that you imagined it?
Yeah, well, so I think you remember this project really was the brainchild of some things we did on the Discord server, right? Like another mod on the server is Jack Daniels Prime, and he had the idea at one point that we should do a multiplayer pass around for the community and try to get people involved. And so we did a few of those and had different themes with that. And then at some point I thought, this would be great to do with other creators. And so I started contacting a few people. And the moment that I feel like it really took shape was when I reached out to Biffa and asked him if he'd be interested, and he jumped on board. And then I was like, oh my God, I got Biffa. And
Nice.
so it was like, I have to do it now. Like, there's no way. I think Biffa, maybe had half the number of subscribers that he has now, but that was
Yeah.
he still had like 300,000 subs at that point. And I think I only had, I don't know, not anywhere near what I have now, maybe like 10,000. But so I got him on board, and then we put it together, and City Planner Plays was involved at the beginning too, and he had just started creating videos, and so I remember it was like when he was starting to explode, because when I first contacted him, he only had like 2,000 subs,
Oh my
and I was
God.
like, you make great videos. I'd love to have you do this project with us. And so we got him involved. And then by the time we were done, he had like over 100,000. And
Wow.
it was insane to see him grow. And I don't know if 5v1c may have played a role in that too, because then YouTube was probably connecting him with Biffa more. But
Oh,
I don't
right,
know for sure,
right.
because like
May-
it didn't have such a huge impact for me or for the other creators that were involved. But in general, yes, I think the project went how I imagined, if not even better. And then it's been great to see it continue too. Like, we're on what, season 4 now? We're season 4, I
Season
think,
four,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And see, now there's so many seasons that I'm having trouble remembering, but we've had so many different creators involved, and now we're at the point where we have been able to, it started as 5 builders, and then we have guest builders because we have so many people that want to be involved, or we have people who are suggesting, hey, what about this creator? And so in order to get more in there, we've created the guest builder type thing, and that has really allowed us to expand a lot more too, and just be a really fun project in general.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for the guest builder because I was very lucky to be in two collaborations now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm also in the current one as a guest, which is really amazing. It's so much fun to just work besides all these great builders. Super amazing project. I remember the community builds on your Discord, actually, the Discordia
Mm-hmm.
and the Zardonia. And I think that was even like the first time that, or like shortly, like after I started being more active on Twitch, like as a viewer watching Twitch. And I remember then there were like Discord streams, and I'm like, okay, so what's a Discord stream? And I think I remember I remember watching Exo Hunter doing either, was it Discordia or was it Sardonia? I don't remember, but that was like something I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. It was a fun experience as a viewer for sure, and as a guest builder, of course. Like, oh my god, like the first time I was in, I think you asked me to be in season, I want to say 2 as a guest builder. I'm not 100% sure if it was 2 or 3. I remember seeing the first one on YouTube and just devouring the videos of all the creators that were attached to the project. And I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. Just seeing the different styles of the creators just come together in one project. And so when I got the chance to be involved, and I got the save the first time around, and I was like, oh wow, I just opened it. I think I spent like 20 minutes just looking through all of the areas in detail, because I had seen the episodes, but now it was time to get that closer look and to see all the different styles of the builders in one map, and just like those little pockets here and there, and you could tell from the building style who it was. It was really fun. I remember that so well. It was an amazing experience for sure. But it's so cool that this community project turned into this huge collaboration, this collaborative effort that is, I do believe, still very liked by a large part of the community. So that is really really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably a mainstay of City Skylines at this point, where so many people like the 5B1C collaboration that it would be really hard to not keep doing it or not see it continue.
Yeah, and I mean it's just a fun project. Like in general, like everything that comes with it, like just being involved in the Discord and talking to people, and then the saves and building, and it's yeah, it's really really cool. And I did not know that when you had City Planner that it was such a small channel. I can't even remember that. That's wow. I mean, City Planner is great. Like
Yeah,
he's amazing, and so it's
yeah.
that's interesting. That you were just like, "Hey, your videos are amazing. Please, I would really like to have you in this project."
Yeah, and I can't remember what year we did. I think it was early 2020 because at some point, like PDXCon 21, I think me and Biffa and City Planner and whoever else was involved. I apologize to whoever it was that I can't remember the builders from the first season, but we all did a panel for PDXCon about how to play Cities multiplayer.
Oh wow, that's
And
cool.
so, yeah, I think the first season must have been like 2020 or 21. No, it was, I bet it was January of 21 that we did it. And then, so City Planner must have started towards the end of 2020, which also corresponds with a lot of content creators started during the pandemic
Yeah.
because they had some free time at home. And then that was a time on YouTube when a lot of people were starting and then growing very rapidly. And so I think that corresponds with his growth too.
So cool to hear those insights. Also, one more person. I think Imperial Jedi was also in season one.
Oh yeah, he's been on
Because
all of them. I don't know how I forgot that.
oh, he's been on all of them. I remember
Yeah,
he's in one because he's like one of my favorite builders to watch on YouTube. He was in again. I don't. Yeah, well, you said he was in all of them, but as far as I remembered, he was also in the one that I was the guest builder at the first time. Because I remember I was like, oh my god, and I looked around the map, and when we were figuring out our little areas where the guest builders would start to build something, and I was like, I'm gonna pick the spot next to Jedi because I like him so much, and I was
that's funny.
so yeah, and I was
Yeah,
so hyped to build in the like next to Imperial Jedi's part. I mean, it was a bit off to the side though, but still, it was kind of fun to do that. Yeah. So, and yeah,
yeah.
well, he's obviously in the current season as well. So,
Well, and I just looked it up, and the fifth builder that first season was Tim Meister.
ah,
And so, and actually, that went back. Me, Imperial Jedi, and Tim Meister got together at PDXCon, and we went out and or like I think we were out with a few other people, and then we took an Uber back to the hotel all together. And so there was a connection between the three of us, and that was how I got started trying to get all the three of us together to do it. And at the time, I thought Imperial Jedi was going to be the biggest YouTuber on the project, and then we got Biffa, and then of course City Planner turned out to be an even bigger creator.
yeah.
So yeah,
Again, really, really cool story. I love all these little insights, these details. And Tim Meister, right? How could I forget as well? Yeah, I remember that. Very, very interesting and super fun. And again, I'm
yeah,
really glad everything turned out the way you had imagined, and that everything worked out so good. So yeah, and like the first season, it was a huge success, right? For like for
yeah,
all of you,
yeah. It
yeah.
was. Everybody loved it that first season. I mean, I think since then maybe there's a little bit of fatigue from some people who are viewers, and so I think the view counts are lower now. But that also could be just there's fewer people playing cities now than there were a few years ago because the game's older, and
Right.
and so there's that too.
Maybe you can find a way to mix it up with some challenges in the future. Every builder has to overcome a certain challenge or something in their round.
Yeah, and I think every season we try to explore ways to do it a little bit different as well. Like we had that first season, we had everybody working together as if it was one spot, but I also like
Right.
took the map and I divided it out to like everybody had these areas. Then another season, we I don't remember what we did different for season two, but then season three, we had everybody had their area, and then we also had a capital city. And so everybody had two episodes per round. And so one they were working on the capital city, and then the other one they worked on their own area. And then now season four, the thing that's different is it's in City Skylines 2. And so that is where we're at with that.
Yeah, and now that you say that, with the builders building on their own area and on the capital in season three, so that's where I was. So I was in season three the first time. So
Yeah.
that's I wasn't sure two or three, but it was three then. Okay.
And I think three was when we really started to expand the number of guest builders too.
Yeah, yeah. I there were a few guest builders.
Yeah.
Which, as you said, there's so many talented creators out there, so many talented city builders, and you basically want to have all of them in your project. And then there's people that, hey, how about this creator, and what about this creator? And then I think it's a good way with the guests, and also, I mean, it's 5B1C, but maybe if if there's six builders, that's fine. It's as you
Yeah.
have the 5+1B1C, right? So it's okay.
Right. Yep. Yeah,
I
and
don't.
we've tried to look at it too, is like it's kind of like a TV show where a TV show has their regular cast, and then every episode they have maybe a guest cast member or a guest star and stuff like that. And so that's kind of how we've approached it too, where we have our five, maybe six regular cast members that recur during the season, and then we have guest people come in who either have one episode that they do, or they might have a couple during the season.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good way to do that. I think I agree. That's really good.
Yeah.
So, Czardus, in the past, you have worked with Paradox Interactive to create YouTube videos about City Skylines. Can you give us a bit of an inside scoop on how everything went down, like for the official City Skylines channel?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. The first ones I did were tutorial videos back in 2019, I think it was. And they reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested. And then I gave some ideas of topics, and then I created the video, and then they reviewed it. They had certain, guidelines of what they needed from me in terms of quality and stuff like that. And they also, I think one of them, they gave me some feedback to change the editing. And so the people at Paradox said to me at one point that it was really fun to see my editing skills get better as I was working on videos for them.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
And yeah, it was really fun because I wanted to like take it up a notch a little bit for videos for them because they were paying me to do them. And instead of doing a like 30-minute video, I was only doing like 3 minutes or like 5 minutes. And so it had a shorter amount of time for me to focus more on the editing side. And so that was a lot of fun. And then it was fun too at PDXCon. I did, um, we had done a global collaboration, I think, or like no, it was a global build off. And at PDXCon, they had a live stream where they brought each person from the build off up and talked to us for a little bit, and then showed off our build. And then there were judges there who were judging and picking a winner. And I remember sitting there, and the person who was leading the event said that his sister really learned a lot from watching my tutorial videos that I had done for Paradox.
Okay, cool.
And so that was really cool and fun too. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, I was lucky enough to create some short form content over on TikTok,
Hmm.
for Paradox, on the official City Skylines channel, and yeah, that was an amazing experience, and I've learned so much as well. Like but first of all, like the contacts on Paradox, the whole Paradox team that I had to I had the opportunity to meet. Um, Very very nice, very easy to work with, super super amazing, no stress whatsoever. Everything it it just worked out so good. So yeah, that's cool. That they contact the creators. Hey, would you want to do something for the official channel? I think that's pretty good, marketing wise as well. Like get the community, the people that already create content for the game, to do it for the official channel. I think it's just a logic, step that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And they're all great to work with.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed working with Paradox.
yeah, me too, me too. Okay, Czardus, let's go a bit into the topic of content creation. Let me know, or let us know, let the audience know, let everybody know what was your initial thought process on starting to create content, and how does City Skylines play into that?
Yeah, Cities has a major role in that because back in 2017, probably, I started watching YouTube videos about games. I had never done that before because I don't know, I'm an older millennial, and when I was young, there weren't any videos about games. And then I was busy going through law school and like really intense stuff, and I didn't really have time for stuff. And then in 2017 or maybe 2016, somewhere around there, I started to have more time and I started to watch some YouTube, and I saw there was a City Skylines series, um, by Strict Toaster and Flux Trance, and maybe it was $2.20. I can't remember. There were three people,
Yeah.
and they were work. Oh no, it was okay. The third creator was somebody who backed out in the middle of the project, I think.
Oh.
There was this YouTube series that was, I think, Arrowhead Junction. And it was the three of them collaborating and building this city. And I was so engrossed on it. And I'm like, I got to watch this. And then I started watching Imperial Jedi and
Oh.
really enjoying the stuff that he was watching. And then I got thinking that, like, wait a minute, I'm watching other people play games. Why don't I just record my own gaming so that I could watch myself play the
Yeah.
game? And
Makes
so I was
sense.
like, maybe 5 years from now, I want to go back and see the city that I'm building. And so I just started to record my own things that I was building. And at first, it was just like I build something and then I do a quick cinematic showing what it was so that I could go back and watch a video. But then I posted it on YouTube so that I could keep it. And people started watching it and subscribing. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. So then I did a video where I did a like tour of the city that I was building at the time. And then people watched that. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to start a new city. And I'm sitting down to like play the game an hour every morning before work anyway. I might as well just start recording while I'm doing that and talking about what I'm doing. And so that turned into my first Let's Play. And I just started growing, and I'm like, people are really liking watching this, and I'm enjoying making it, and I'm just sitting here playing the game anyway. I might as well set up a microphone and record, and that's how it started. And then it just grew more and more.
Okay, that's really cool. So there wasn't actually a big plan for you to become a YouTuber per se. You're just like, okay, let's upload, and then all of a sudden, like people started watching. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't really plan it at all. It was really just I wanted the video for myself, and then other people were watching it, and so I just started creating more content, and then the next thing I knew, I was a part-time content creator. and
Yeah,
people were enjoying it and wanting more. So that's where it started. Yeah.
that is cool. And did you always have the name Czardus for your channel? And how did you come up with that name?
I did. So that name actually is the given name of an ancestor of mine from a few hundred years ago. And I just always thought it was an interesting name and super unique. When I was creating the channel, I'm like, everything says to create a channel with a unique name. And from previous experiences, I know that web development, you need a unique thing that's easy to remember and easy to find. And so I was just like, all right, well, this is kind of my gaming name anyway, so I'll just have it be my YouTube channel. But yeah, it was the name of an ancestor that at the time, if you Googled Czardus, you would find stuff about the ancestors I have with that name. But then now, if you Google it, you only find me, and you have to go through multiple pages to find anything else. But that's where it came from.
That is cool. And it's actually pretty good that if you Google it now, you could only find you. So that's exactly what you want, right? As a content creator. So
Yeah.
that's yeah,
Yep.
that's really, really cool.
Although I will say you can Google it, and there's some like Russian dance or something from a few hundred years ago that
Oh,
is called the Czardus, and it has a slightly different spelling. But Google is like, wait, did you really mean this or did you mean this? And so sometimes you can find like recordings of like a ballet person doing the Czardus dance or somebody playing the song that goes with it or something like that. But it yeah, it's kind of fun, which also makes me wonder like where did his name come from? Because that line of my family, we've we only trace as far back as like the US, and but we know that they probably came from the United Kingdom and one of the British Isles. And so then we have this name of Czardus, which a lot of people from Eastern Europe say that I should be pronouncing it like Chartus. And
oh,
so it makes me wonder, like maybe the guy's name was like Charles or something, and in America they wrote it down wrong or something. They did that
yeah,
all the time,
yeah.
and but it wouldn't fit with what we also know about the family. So it's also this mystery behind the name of like where did this come from either?
Wow.
Because I also can't find anybody in history who has ever had that given name other than this one person in my ancestry. So
Okay.
it's a
Wow.
really fun name, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool, especially with the background. Like, there's no one else that you can find that has had this name. It's
Yeah,
just in
other
your
than
family. Yeah.
the the Czardus Senior, and then there was a Czardus Junior, and another one who had Czardus as a middle name.
Huh.
But those are the only ones that we can find.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah,
it is. It really is. Yeah. And now you have it as your YouTube channel. That's and your
yeah,
gaming name. So that's really cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I love hearing stories about names and how people thought of their names. Quick, if I can tell the story of my name, which some people find interesting as well, Flyvox, where does that come from? Like what? And it's just interesting because I used to be the singer of a metal band, and when we were just jamming out doing some music, and it was like the heavy metal screamy music, and so we were like, okay, we need like a name, a band name that like sticks. Like you want that name, and people cannot help but associate it with the music. And we were like, so what if we go with a contrast, right? And we were like, okay, we'll just call ourselves Butterfly. So it was like, because nobody would expect when you see the band name and it's like, okay, what is this? And then you have this heavy metal music, right? It's well, we thought at the time, hey, that's like something to remember, right? People would remember it easily. And anyway, when we were in the studio and on the mixing, you would have the different channels, and of course for the microphone, you it's called the vocals, and we would have it just shortened on the mixer. It would just be called Vox. And so what we then did, once we, when it got slightly professional, not super professional, but slightly professional, we each of the band members, we had our email address. And so what we thought then we could do, we just call ourselves like by our instruments, right? And so since I was like, but I don't want to be like called vocals, and then it's just like I was looking on the mixer and I was like, you know what? I'm Vox. I'm Butterfly Vox because I'm the vocals of Butterfly, right? And so
Yeah.
that was usually my name. And then I was like, I kind of adopted that name into my gaming as well. So whenever there's like, name your character, or set up an account, and I would call myself Butterfly Vox. And then I think it was 2015 when Super Mario Maker for the Nintendo released, Nintendo Wii U, and you were able to create Mario levels and share them with the community, and other people could play them. See, that was a builder game, so it's
Hmm.
technically, and you had to connect to the Nintendo network, and so I wanted to, as per usual, Butterfly Vox. Well, haha, I couldn't use so many letters. I had to shorten the name. And I was like, well, how do I call myself now? And then I just dropped the butter, basically. And it was Flyvox from there. And ever since, I've been using that as my name, and it just spilled over to everything, basically. So that's the story. I'm just, it's been over, like, I don't know, 15 years
Yeah.
since the band. So
Yeah, that's really
that's,
cool. And I have some follow-up questions here now.
please.
Uh, so, Eurovision is going on right now, and it's something that isn't very big in the States. But my wife and I fell in love with Eurovision, especially because Will Ferrell did an awesome video, or an awesome movie about it. But then now I have this image of you standing on stage at a Eurovision type event, and it's a very heavy metal band, and you're there with the lead vocals. And it has me wondering, are there any videos out there of Butterfly?
They're actually, well, I'm not prepared for that. So I think I have to check, but there was one video on YouTube, and I guess I can also, I mean, editor Flyvox can potentially link that in the description of this video as well. So I can't find it right now. I might have to look it up later. And again, maybe editor Flyvox can take care of that. But yeah, there was a video. I mean, I have videos, so they're definitely not lost. But I guess it's not no longer up on the YouTube channel. But yes, there is actually, and me with long hair in the front, and doing the shouty screamy music. So but it was fun times. It was, fun times. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that sounds fun.
I think it's
Definitely,
like
definitely.
it's like 15 years ago when that, everybody just kind of, yeah, it was fun for a while, but it's getting too expensive, because we when you're like a small band, you have to, scrape everything and beg the venues to have a gig. And of course, sometimes you would even have to pay like a token, because they're like, oh, well, how many people can you draw in? Because that's how they make their money, of course. And they're like, well,
Hmm.
maybe we can get 30 people here. And they're like, well, then you're gonna have to pay a token for that. And it's like, okay. So, and just like touring was just like, and we were just like, okay, let's just, and then everybody just like basically went their separate ways, and that was that. And I never, like, I do sing along with the car radio, but other than that, I don't really
Yeah.
accept the Flyvox beats, the copyright free music, might I add, that I produce through FL Studio. I don't really do any other type of music. But yeah, that was some wild times, some wild times.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, 100%. But that's how my name came to be, because I didn't have enough letters for my actual name. I had to shorten it, and I stuck with it.
It's always fun to see the unique names that come out.
Yeah. That's why I love stories about the names so much. And
Hmm.
there's like a story to everybody. Like it's like nobody is just like, oh, I woke up one day. Well, I guess there is, but it's like it's always something interesting. Oh, I saw these two words on a bottle and decided to flip them around, and it's just I don't know. It's something about it. I love names about stories. Stories about names.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Czardus, you mentioned being a part-time YouTuber. Have you ever thought of going full-time on YouTube or as a content creator in general?
I have, and it's definitely something that I want to do at some point. But it's always hard to make that transition, and it's even harder when you have, a house you have to pay for and a family that you have to support. And so it's one of those things that if things lined up right, then maybe one day I would be able to do it. But so far, every time I look at the projections of like, okay, when would this be able to happen? It just seems to be moving farther into the future as I go along.
Yeah.
You think that, okay, well, maybe in 2 years I'll be able to do that. And then 2 years later, you're like, okay, well, maybe in 2 years I'll be able to do that. And it just keeps
Yeah.
going. And so I'd love to do it because I'd love to have the freedom and the flexibility, but I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I can totally understand that. I have a wife and child, and we have the apartment to still pay for, and it's like, yeah, it's. I mean, for me at this point, it's completely out of the question. I'm just like such a small content creator, but even then, like, seeing stuff with like when the live streaming platform Mixer got shut down, and now you don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, for instance, and when you're a content creator and you're relying on some of these platforms as your like main source of income, I mean,
Right.
obviously, you should diversify your income streams anyway. You should have as much as you or as many income streams as you can. But still, like it just whenever I hear something about that, like when Mixer shut down again, the TikTok that's currently like there's a big question mark right there, and just like simple algorithm changes, and you have to adapt as a content creator. Let's just talk in our specific situation as a City Skylines YouTuber. You have to adapt constantly for the algorithm, and it's just like it's just so how to like unstable, right? It's not like I go to my 9 to 5. I know I get paid every month, and that's that, right? That's safe. That's secure. Uh,
Hmm.
of course, I don't have that freedom, as you just mentioned. I don't have the freedom to be as creative as I would like to produce as much content as I would like to, because I still have that 9 to 5, of course. And but yeah, with providing for the family, the content creation business, I think I would be too scared to go that final step. I mean, of course, depends on the numbers. Again, like I don't know. I mean, never say never, right? But yeah, if I look at it right now, I think I would just be too scared because I know how fickle the business can be or how it is. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And Czardus, do you still play City Skylines for fun or only for content?
Well, I think the issue I have with playing it for fun is time. And so, like, I only have so much time for gaming in general in my schedule. And so, if it's not a game that I'm currently like either really trying to get a lot of content out on, or I'm just genuinely trying to learn the game so that I can make better content down the road, then I don't typically play it for fun. And City Skylines currently falls in that spot. I think for fun right now, I've really, I just got back into Skyrim, and I don't know why I wanted to pick it up, but all of a sudden I was like, I want to play Skyrim, and so I picked it up, and I've got a Steam Deck, and that like it works perfect on the Steam Deck, and I've been playing that a lot for fun in my spare time. And then, of course, I've been getting into RimWorld a little bit on the channel, and so I've been doing a bit of that on the Steam Deck too, because that one works really well there too.
Yeah, that's cool with the Steam Deck. That's really awesome. I get where you're coming from because who has time, right? It's the same for me as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
I hardly play any games for fun. If I can carve out an hour or half an hour, even, I don't know. Like these days, I just dive in into Subnautica because I just really love this game. But other than that, I don't really do a lot of gaming outside of content creation. So for me personally, I guess it's more fun, or it's more for fun when I do live streams somehow, because it's not like that's more like of a chill vibe. You got the chat going, and you can just boot up the stream and you can just play the game. So it's basically just playing it for fun. So that's where I'm kind of coming from, and because it's also just very difficult to juggle the content creation journey with the personal life. I don't know, how do you see that?
Yeah, I was just thinking about how some of my gaming time right now is also because my son is finally starting to be at the age where he's exploring more and more games. He just learned to read recently. And so we told him, you can use the computer now. That was the rule that we had. You have to learn how to read before you can use a computer. And that allowed me to open up my Steam library to him. And that's got him playing a whole bunch of games. And every day he's like, Dad, I need help with this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And so I come over and I get to play 5 or 10 minutes of some random game that I haven't played in years. But in terms of juggling personal life and content creation, that is a huge channel, right?
Yeah.
And in the past, it used to be that I would get up and do my recording an hour before everybody gets up in our house. And that worked really well for years. But then our daughter is an early riser and she gets up first. There's no way I can get up before her. And so that's made it a little bit more challenging to find that time for recording, especially our house. I don't have my own recording space right now. And I hope that at one point in the future, maybe I will. But for now, the computer is in our uh, like room where the TV is and the playroom and
The
all of
living
it all
room. Yeah.
together. Yeah, the living room. And so it just, it is a challenge, but you get it done if you want to do it. And that's kind of where I'm at. I really want to make it happen one day. And so I I figure out when it's going to work.
Oh, that's you're the exact same for me. It's the exact same for me. My setup is also in the living room. Yeah, and I gotta be aware. Like I don't want to shoo my family out of the room. I don't want to tell them get out of here now. I need this. I need
Yeah.
so you gotta be. When are they going to bed? When are they getting up? And I'm at the point now too where I'm like, okay, because it used to work very well that when the little one went to bed and Mrs. Fly, she would just give me the space on certain days, like Tuesdays and Sundays. It's usually like a live stream day, and I would have like 2 hours or 3 hours to do live streams because of the little one going to bed already. But now, since Fly Junior is getting older, and she doesn't, and then there's days when there's like a bank holiday, or it's like, and then there's no school, and so I can't tell my kid you
Mhm.
have to go to bed at 8:30 because she's smart. She's like, well, I don't have school, so I don't need to get up in the morning, so I can stay up late.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I didn't think of that. So how am I going to do that in the future? So it's going to be really
Yeah.
interesting to juggle all of that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I used to do live streams every once in a while. I've tried that, but it's so hard to fit them in the schedule because of the same reasons you just said. Like there's family around, and if I schedule it for late at night for me after everybody goes to bed, then I don't have the energy level that
Yeah.
I need in order to be engaging with the community. It's like I might be able to record a YouTube video at that time because that works a little bit different. You can get in your zone in the game and just have the energy vibe that you need for that. Especially because my videos are always very relaxing anyway. So me sounding relaxed just plays into that more. But a live stream, you really need that energy to
Yeah.
be checking the comments and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah. And yeah, it's with the timing as well, like, or fitting it into schedule, what you just mentioned, it's like it's also very challenging for me to, okay, like, set priorities. I have my set live stream schedule, but I also sometimes because I also have a set schedule, a date and a day and time where I can do YouTube recordings, and sometimes one or the other doesn't work out, and so it's always bad when I can't finish my YouTube recording on the day I plan. And then it's like, okay, so where do I set priorities? Do I not upload this week, or do I say, sorry everyone, I can't do a live stream because I have to work on my video? So yeah,
Mhm.
I totally get that. It's the scheduling it's wild. It's really wild, and how content creators juggle all of that with like a 9 to 5 and the family and everything. It's mind blowing sometimes how you can make things work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Especially like I have a big vacation coming up, and so I'm working to record ahead of time, and so then it's another complexity where
Oh,
you
yeah.
got the 9 to 5 job, got the family to do stuff with, have a vacation to plan for and prepare for, and then also trying to find extra time to record. Content creation turns out to be a really hard thing to do on the side, but
It's
totally, totally worth all the effort. Don't get me wrong. Like there, it's so fun to create videos and then have people watch them and enjoy what you're doing. It's just wonderful.
That's so true. And I love just getting feedback. I love reading
Yeah.
comments and in live streams, the chat messages, and just hanging out with people and the community. It's just so much fun for me. So yeah, yeah. If you want to make it, as you said, if you want to make it work, you can make it work for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's talk a bit about City Skylines 2. And you, as me, we've been given early access. What was your first playing experience like, or like your initial impressions of the game when you opened it up for the first time?
When I opened it up for the first time, so that was a long time ago, actually, because I don't know if you were on the alpha test,
No, I
but
was
I had
not.
alpha access back
Oh,
in 2020, I think, or 21. And I was very intrigued with that initial impression. And, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. It was an alpha, but at the time you could still see where they want to go with it.
right.
And um, that was really, really exciting to be able to see it at that time and just get to experience some of it and see where they're planning and really have an idea of, hey, if some of these things can be modded, it could be amazing. Like the development tree, I really hope that we can get a mod one day that can have it truly be historical. And if they can mod that development tree to have access to, at different points in time, so like have a whole tree that unlocks a horse and buggy or something. I guess that would always be available in any city builder. But then have like automobiles get unlocked when you use a development point. That would just
Right.
be amazing to me and get back to like what I was trying to do in Bellyford and have that just be built into the game would be amazing.
Oh,
And
that would be
I
cool.
remember that was, yeah, that was like the first thing I thought of when I saw that it was going to have this setup. And that carried over into the early access that we had last fall, where when I guess the game came out in October. So yeah, that was fall when we had early
Yeah.
access. But yeah, so like that has always been my idea and my impression of it of like there's some issues with it. It's a new game. It isn't going to be able to avoid some issues. Any new release will have that, and but you can see where it could go eventually, and that is really exciting.
Oh yeah. I didn't know you were in the with you got the alpha build. That's really cool. That's really really cool. So
Mhm.
I'm I'm interviewing more and more creators, and I'm finding more and more creators that had alpha access. It's- that's really really
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things that obviously we couldn't talk
Of
about it at
course. Of
all,
course. Yeah.
and so it was really fun. And I remember even early in the pandemic, um, they had a call with all of us and told us that they were working on this. And it was just very memorable. Like I can remember pacing back and forth in my living room on a Discord call about it. So yeah,
Yeah, I remember when I saw the message, the Discord message in the early access server. Well, that was for beta, I think in July, or I don't know. I got access. No, wait, that was earlier. I think May or June even, and then we got the game in like end of August, I think. So it had roughly like 2 months before release, I think, or something like
yep,
that. So I
yep,
remember when I saw that message, I was like, "What? They're actually doing it. They're actually doing it. Cities 2
yep,
is
yep.
dropping. I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my God. It was, the news was, because honestly, I did not think that a sequel was being made at all, because there's so much support for Cities 1 and so much new content. And so that was like the last thing that crossed my mind. I was always joking about it in live streams, and I would see some funny stuff in Cities 1. I was like, oh, that's a hint for Cities 2, 100%. We saw it, just like fooling around with the idea. But I honestly did not think they would ever do a City Skylines 2.
I think that my guess, and this is pure speculation, is that they have ideas for what more they want to do with it, but they were getting to a point where they were like being held back by the structure of Cities 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the like development tree is so interesting to me, because that's the thing that is different at its core as opposed to Cities 1. Like there's so many things that carry over from Cities 1 to Cities 2, but the development tree is completely different.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, where are they going to go with that in DLCs and things like that?
Yeah, so true. Because, like, if you look at the development tree and you look at the individual services, you will see there is so much space still. And I'm also guessing, like, that leaves so much room for updates, for DLCs. And yeah, and that's something I speculated about when I saw the Dev Diary video or the Dev Insight video on the development tree. On the I think it was in the game progression dev diary, and those were the videos that I broke down with Joy Build Cities. We did reactions and breakdowns of everything that was in them, and that was something that like instantly stood out to me when I saw the development tree. Was like, but there's so much space, and like you can add lines and and have new things in there. So I'm guessing that that space will be filled out a bit more in the future.
Yeah, I would think so. And you could even add entire new rows. If
Yeah,
you like add a scroll down bar, then you can add even more nodes going down. Like
right.
there's so much they could do with that.
So the development tree is that something that stood out the most to you in the game, in alpha or beta?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that caught my eye the most. And then, I mean, they've kind of taken the idea that they had from Park Life in Cities 1, where you can design the districts, and then that creates a new little pocket in your uh, city for whatever specialty they're doing. And they've applied that to Cities 2. And that's a cool thing too, because now we have a little bit more customization on the farms. Of course, there's just the one texture, which is really annoying, but you do have the ability to have a different shape farm, and that is really nice. And I can see that going a lot of ways too. And just there's so many things they could do with this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%. There's room for improvement. Like
Yes.
sky's the
Yep.
limit. Like, yeah, 100%. And I agree. Like the development tree is what is different to its core. Like for me personally, of course, the development tree is something that stood out to me, but I always loved how they did the road tools, right? The road tools
Mhm.
are like, wow, it's like I can't even like go into Cities 1 vanilla and just build like an intersection or like an interchange. Of course you can do it, right? But then go into Cities
Yep.
2 and build your interchange. It's just the whole different ball game. It's
Yeah,
so smooth, it's so intuitive. You just two clicks and you got your connection. And that was something where I was like mind blown because it was so amazing, the road tools. And I know a lot of people love
yeah,
them, but yeah, I'm one of those people.
yeah. I think so too, and I think it makes it so much easier to have a realistic looking road system. And there are some things that I don't like about the road tools, like how it can be really hard to get it to line up just right because you have so much freedom that you could move your mouse just a tiny bit to the right and if you're adding a road to a T section, then your road might not line up in the right spot.
That's fair, yeah.
But as long as you're being careful, then there's so much you can do with that road. Like so many different ways that you could build it. I would like to see the ability to plant a tree in the middle of a roundabout, though.
Yes,
That's, I
please.
think, one of my gripes of like those roundabouts. They're nice, yes, and it's great that can do them so easy, but they're so plain. And I just want to decorate a roundabout.
Yeah, that's also something that stood out to me in a bit of a negative way, was that
Yeah.
the roundabouts, although look pretty good, but with just the grassy green patch in the middle. And I
Mhm.
remember first time I had roundabout, I was like, oh, nice, let's grab a tree and put, oh, never mind. It doesn't, you can't put
Yep.
a tree there.
Yep.
I mean, now we have Anarchy, we got PDX mods, we got Anarchy.
Yeah.
And by the time of this recording, there is a new mod out, or a new mod coming, the Extra 3.0, with detailing options. I haven't checked it out in detail myself, but apparently we're getting more detail options with that mod, which is really really good. And I just feel like the PDX mods, they just, yeah, they just elevate the whole experience for me.
Oh, definitely. I think, I think we talked earlier about how there's a spectrum of vanilla versus modded.
Yeah.
And I think if you're somebody who leans heavily on the modded side, then that detailing has been something that has been difficult in Cities 2. And I can understand that there's many people who have had a lot of trouble getting into the game without the ability to detail. So I think that sort of mod is going to be really useful.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I haven't checked it out in detail yet, but from what I saw of the promotion on Twitter, it's I, yeah, again,
Mhm.
literal game changer.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Czardus, what did you think about the game's release and all the controversy that came along with it?
Controversy? There was a problem with it? No, I'm kidding. I think, I think any like I said earlier, any game is going to have issues when it's released. This one had more than you would expect. There's no doubt about it. But I also think that the game itself has so much possibility. And if you look back on where Cities 1 was at its release, Cities 2 is way better. And, you know, we expected that Cities 2 would have some additional features upon release that it does not have, but it is, if you're comparing Cities 1 to Cities 2, it's starting at a much better place. And I think it can continue to grow. I certainly hope that it gets much better and that they continue to add to it. I do think that they're doing a great job with some of the public relations efforts recently to try to fix some of that issue that they had. But I don't know. I mean, from a content creation perspective, it has been a bit disappointing, of course, because the the hype at the beginning was great, and then all of a sudden it dropped off
Mm,
because everybody was so upset.
yeah.
And it's been interesting to see what everybody's been doing since then with their content. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting going forward as well.
Yeah. I'm full of hopes, cautiously optimistic, but full of hope because yeah,
Mhm.
like I just want this game to work. Actually, I've said that before. Yeah, it's yeah. Obviously
Yeah,
all of the what else can you say, right? It's
right.
it
Well,
is
and I think, from, I mean, obviously Colossal Order has a big incentive for the game to do well,
Yeah.
and Paradox does as well because it's Cities One was a huge cash cow for them,
Yeah.
and I think that everybody wants Cities Two to win, and they're gonna get it there because there's too many people working on it to not have it be a success. It's just a matter of how bumpy is the road going to be from here to there? You
Mm.
know, like how hard is it going to be for them to get it to where everybody wants it to be?
Yeah, that's so true. And my honest opinion is I think it would have needed like a year's time before they had released it. But,
Yeah,
again, it is what it is. I think what you also said, the communication that happened recently with the way forward, that post that they also announced the beach properties would be part of the base game and they would refund the pre-orders, or they would refund the buyers. I think that's a real good step in the right direction, and I hope that actions follow with the words, of course, because that post, I read that and it sounded very sincere to me. The acknowledgement of everything that happened, and then the first step to action was refunding the beach properties, which I thought was really good because I like 6 buildings, which you can only plop once in vanilla, and 4 trees. Well, a new zone, but for like $10, I was like, oh wow, that's a
yeah,
bit much. Like that's
yeah.
yeah, that wasn't good. And plus there were still some issues, so I thought it was not the best idea to release a DLC that costs $10 when they're still like, oh yeah, but we're also going to fix the game still for you. Like, not maybe not the best option to do. But yeah, again, cautiously optimistic and hoping that in the future everything will be, as you said, like the bumpy road will be behind us at one point, and we can enjoy the game for what it is and for what it's meant to be. Because I agree, like the base, the core of it's like, it's amazing. It's really really nice. It feels completely different than Cities 1, to me at least, which I guess is good because it's a sequel. There should be something
Hmm.
different. There should be like a different feel to a sequel, a familiar but different feel. And I've said this before. For me, I have to see how I'm going to continue with Cities 2 because it just feels a little bit too different for my taste. But again, that's just because I'm not from that simulation game. I never liked simulation games or management games all that much. And Cities 2, of course, can also like lean heavily into that fact of being a management game, a simulation game. So yeah, even if it's fixed, I'm gonna have to see if I can still enjoy it. But as of now, I got over 130 hours in the game, I think. So I'm trying. I'm I'm really trying to make the best of it and see if I can get into it even more. And I'm definitely gonna follow along with whatever happens. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that is amazing in Cities 2. There's some stuff that's not great, of course, but again, we hope that that will be fixed in the future, that will be addressed in the future, and yeah, that this I like that the bumpy road. I like that the bumpy road will be behind us 100%.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you know I'm with you where it feels different. I like how it feels on my perspective. Like
Yeah.
I like the management games, and I like that there's a little bit more to the simulation itself. I know that there have been some issues about whether or not that simulation is actually doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But again, once they get all of that worked out, this could be a great game. And it, I mean, it already is a good game,
Yeah.
and it could be something amazing. It's just a matter of how long is that bumpy road going to be.
Mm. Yeah. So
So,
true.
yeah.
We'll see what the future brings. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope for the best. And yeah, maybe I'll get into it even more in more detail. Well, who knows? I don't
Hmm.
know what the future brings. But Czardus, we've been recording for almost an hour and a half now, or a little bit over an hour and a half actually. But I have one more question for you. Speaking of the future, can you share some of your future content plans for your channel and for City Skylines too?
Yeah, so Cities has always been my channel. Like, 'cause we talked earlier about how I got started, and it was
Yeah.
City Skylines. So I don't think City Skylines is ever going to leave my channel. I don't think I can. I don't think I could do that. It has to be part of the channel. And with that said, I am pulling back a bit, and I'm just finding other content or other games to be a little bit more engaging for me and for the viewers. And so I think what the current plan is that cities will remain once a week, and then other stuff will be the rest of the week. I'm really digging into like beginners guides as a content strategy as well right now, and in terms of different games and like maybe get a new game and do a beginner's guide on it and see where that leads. And so I think future content wise, I'm going to have more variety, but cities will never go away.
That sounds like a plan. That's really, really cool. All right, Czardus, thank you so much once again for joining me. I really enjoyed our little chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was so fun and so great to hear your thoughts on cities as well and content creation. And I'm really looking forward to that video of your heavy metal band. So you better share that.
Yeah. I will. I have to now. I have to, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so where can we find you? YouTube at Czardus is your handle, right?
Yep, that is it. And I'm also on Instagram. That one is Czardus, and TikTok as Czardus as well.
And all of your socials will be linked in the description
Yep.
of the YouTube video, of course. Everyone, please do me a big, big favor. Go and check out Czardus. You will not be disappointed. But everybody listening or watching, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. And please stay safe out there. Bye-bye.